what's the voice in your head? And what's your relationship with?
Okay, yeah, this is gonna get deep.
That's a great clip for the trailer of this podcast. Pat, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, man.
Episode 38, episode 226, which was recorded in May of 2022, and now episode 360 something. It has been an absolute pleasure to watch your journey unfold from when I was just reading your blog, and now you have YouTube videos that are going viral, that the algorithm is taken over for good reason, and it is remarkable to witness the journey. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I have a present for you.
Oh, man. Thank you. On Writing Well by William Zinsser.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
But that's not the present. You open it up.
What's this cash for?
It's $500. It's a referral fee.
For? Marco?
Yeah.
Marco, to give people some context, was my editor who is sitting in the room right now recording us. And he started by posting some clips of mine on his Twitter and sending me his clips. And I was like, these are really good. And then what happened was you were looking for someone in the Tampa area, and I referred him to you and said, you should check out this Marco guy. And now Marco's in the flesh.
Yes.
And recording and listening to this podcast.
But let's talk about that for a sec.
Yeah.
I hit you up to see if you knew anyone. You were living in New York at the time. I was looking for someone to hire, and it was impossible to find anyone that was halfway decent. And I just DM'd you and said, hey, do you potentially know anyone in the Tampa Bay area? And you're like, hey, sure, yeah, I know this guy. And he just connected me right away. And at that moment, I was like, holy shit, man, you are well connected. And I have more stories about that, how well connected you are, which is so impressive. But I wanted to give you that because actually in my job application that had that little note, when I sent it to you, it didn't have it, but later I was still looking, and I put, if you refer someone, it'll be $500. So I felt like I've owed you that for a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, dude. Well, I appreciate that. And I did it out of the kindness out of my own heart, and because I thought two great people should meet each other. And Marco edits the videos that are on YouTube.
Yep.
Those
Marco, he not only edits them, but he's the producer. So he helps write the scripts, does all the pre-production, edits the videos, does the thumbnails, does everything. It's amazing. The YouTube channel wouldn't be anything, or even all the video content would be nothing without him. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And that just shows to me that if you do good work, you will get to the places that you want to go. And that's true for you. That's true for Marco. And it's just like when you recognize that in other people and you see themselves putting themselves out there and doing work that Marco was editing clips for me for free.
Yeah.
Just out of the kindness of his own heart, and because he wanted to work hard and appreciate the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's like, you never know what your quote unquote free work is going to lead to.
Yep.
And it's why it's so important to do work that you could see yourself doing at some future point.
Yep.
Because if you succeed at that game, you're going to have to play that game again at a higher level, which now Marco is doing. He's not editing clips for free. He's producing and editing an amazing YouTube channel that is absolutely exploding.
Yep. We talk about this all the time because I'm sure you get so many DMs as well. So let me edit clips for you. Let me do this stuff for you. And it's always something like, hey, I'll edit this for you. And then, if you like it, we'll work together, or like asking for money or whatever, just do the work. And that's what he did. And that's why he's here now. And that's why he's working on this YouTube channel that we're taking off. And it's just it's going to become something huge. And like, nobody is willing to just do just a little bit of free work. It's just a little bit, just a few clips, right? That's it. That leads to something where you connect it to me, or you connect it to someone else. And then, yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for it feels like a gift, but I appreciate it, the referral fee. And let's talk about the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Dude, what in the world happened?
I don't know. I think that I always wanted to do YouTube. I always wanted to do video content. With Starter Story, my business, we had always done online content. But, I'd always kind of obsessed about YouTube and loved it, but I always was too scared to do it, too scared to fail, or too scared to start something, or it felt like too big of a production. I couldn't do it. And then when we hired Marco, or I started making just a couple TikToks, just started on short form and fell in love with it. Really, really enjoyed like creating content, became a little game. Then the YouTube channel kind of blew up fast, but what people don't see is that we were trying to figure out how to create content for 6 months on short form and like failing. Like we were getting some views and stuff like that, but we were grinding, we were putting in the reps. And then when we decided to make the switch to long form YouTube, then it was just kind of blew up fast because we had already had all this practice, really.
Wow. How many did you do? Do you remember?
We did how many short form videos?
Yeah.
I think we did 40.
Wow.
It wasn't a lot, but it was all original content, right? So we weren't clipping things down. We were writing scripts. How much time would you spend on a short form video? Yeah, 12 to 20 hours on one clip.
12 to 20 hours on one clip.
On one 50-second video.
And then it doesn't blow up. And then how do you feel?
Yeah, it would suck. We would film like 3 at a time, so hopefully like one of them would blow up. But it'd blow up with views. But then, we were just so focused on just like how can we tell great stories and how can we write good stuff. And that was always our I guess our approach, is that the changes to these algorithms is that you create one really good thing and it's going to reward you, because it doesn't really care about how many followers you have or anything like that. So we were like, okay, let's just spend all the time we can to make something great. And I mean, it was just TikTok videos. It wasn't like great, but we would really put in the time to write the scripts. We would write the scripts for probably 3 or 4 hours. Like, wow. Write the script, rewrite it, and then film it, take multiple takes. And then we would, we'd edit it, and that would take another 5 to 6 hours. So that's why it would take a long time. And then, when one of them didn't do well, it kind of sucked, but we would learn from it. Yeah.
Wow. And then you mentioned at the beginning there you were scared to put yourself on video. Why was that?
There's a few reasons. It's just scared to fail generally, scared to put yourself out there. I think, you see a lot of things like faceless YouTube channels, right? That's like a trend. No one wants to put their face. It's a very, I don't know, I don't know, maybe I can't eloquently explain why people don't want to do that. Maybe you probably have a better idea.
For why people
don't want to put their face, or why people don't put themselves out there.
I think one is insecurity, but another is like there are tens of thousands, there are hundreds of thousands of people watching your videos. You don't know all of them. You don't know what they're about. You don't know what their intentions are. And so I think a lot of people find security in not being known. And there's some, that's okay. It's not okay to me if the insecurity comes from, this is what a parent thinks, or this is what a friend thinks, and I'm playing my college friends in a room together.
Yes.
And that's what it is for a lot of people, for why they are not putting themselves out there. But if it's coming from a place of, I don't want to be famous, and I want to be known for my ideas rather than my face, I respect that.
Yeah. I think part of it for me is like, what are my old friends going to say about me?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I've always dealt with, because I wasn't always doing business or content or whatever. Just had like a regular college and friends and that sort of thing. And, people talk behind your back, or maybe they're like a little bit jealous. Not jealous, but like, when someone puts themselves out there, they kind of bring you down a little bit. It's kind of like the boys. But so that was always a thing too. But I think just, afraid to fail, or to put yourself out there and do all this work, and then you don't the uncertainty of what's going to come out of this. And that's how we felt. We were just talking about I felt like we should start doing video content, but I didn't really have a plan for what that was going to be. And that's like kind of a theme of my life, is like not really having a plan, but just trying new things. And then, we're finally starting to see the results with the YouTube video, but that was really like all together, like a year of uncertainty of, why are we doing this? It's not really generating new revenue but yeah.
And then, not to mention the 4,000 interviews that have been done on Starter Story.
Yes.
Explain to people who might not know or listen to our first 2 episodes about the actual, you mentioned, we did 40 videos. Well, what about the 4,000 interviews?
Yeah.
What your videos are a manifestation of those 4,000.
Yep. Yeah, I was just talking to someone about that. Is like, why is another reason why I think that the YouTube channel blew up quick is that, I spent the last 5 years reading business stories and learning how to package business stories, learning how to write good titles, learning, just that kind of back and forth of what the audience likes and what they don't like, certain businesses they like, or ways you can talk about those businesses or angle them in a way that gets people excited or inspired and that sort of thing. So you see the YouTube channel just blow up quick, but really it's like an amalgamation of 5 years of being in this very specific niche that I'm in, which is like sharing the stories of online businesses. It would be impossible to do that. And I was actually just talking to the founder of Morning Brew about that, about, they're looking, it's really hard to build content about, from generalists. Like, if someone's more of a generalist, like they're just, someone who works at the Morning Brew, whatever, to have them talk about business it's never going to be as nuanced as someone who's been in the game for, 5 years and knows how to tell these stories. So I think it's the power of I see a lot of people jump between different niches or jump between different businesses, the shiny object syndrome. It's like, now I'm finally saying like, oh, this is what happens when you hang out in 5 years in one space. And really, maybe it's even a little bit more than that for me, but that's kind of the compounding of that, I guess.
I have this belief that I talk about sometimes where if you see people who are successful, it's often that they spend 10 years doing something and then they hop over to something slightly different and they become really successful. The example I like to use is Joe Rogan was a comedian and then he goes on Fear Factor and TV and he has a whole new career. And then he goes on TV and Fear Factor for 10 years and then he has a whole new career as a podcaster. And it's like, that's probably true in 5 years as well. It's like you've spent 5 years building up the newsletter, building up the website. It's written content, written interviews, and then you go to something slightly similar and it goes to a whole new level.
And that's the power of like, the balance of like staying in one lane, but also tinkering with other things, like trying that one new thing that, the YouTube channel or going and starting a podcast is like, some people don't tinker. Like I did like a personality test on me and it called me like I can't remember the name, but it was like the tinkerer or the engineering, the guy who likes to play around with like toys or like try new things just for the fun of it. And I think that's like, I try to like lean into that more. It's like to learn new things just for the curiosity that I have and hopefully, but also balance that with like long-term, I guess, industry or, areas.
Yeah. That makes sense. One of the things you mentioned before when we're talking about you being scared to put yourself out there was like, what are my friends going to think?
Yeah.
What's an example of that happening in your childhood or in your formative experience where you were made fun of? Because that is a block that potentially is in your head right now that could be holding you back from taking another bigger leap.
Yeah. No, that's a therapist talked about that one time is like, like I didn't fit in high school, moved around a lot, got made fun of, bullied, that sort of thing. It wasn't bad. I'm not saying it was like really bad, but that definitely shapes the rest of your life is like I wasn't the cool kid. Right. So, and then more specifically, I think like when you think of like people worried about what your friends say about you, it's like, it's like the group chat, right? Like your boys are in the group chat and like when someone does something, puts themselves out there, when someone does something, out of the norm of things, everyone kind of like pokes fun at them, right? That's kind of like the feel, like not necessarily what I was worried about, but like that would be like, what are they going to say behind my back or like, in front of me too? Because, people say that stuff and usually it's just a joke, but then, sometimes you think about it.
What would you be if you dropped it?
What do you mean?
Dropped the need for their validation or acceptance and felt it for yourself.
I think, just something that I always struggled with is like not being able to celebrate other people's successes sometimes. And then maybe if I stopped worrying about that, then I would also be able to celebrate other successes and not be jealous of other people. You know, when you see something on Twitter, you're just like laying in bed or whatever, and you know that person, you even might even like that person, but you see their thing and then you get kind of jealous about what they've done or something like that. I think if you can remove that from your past, you can also remove that from your present or your future of like being jealous of someone's, but you're just clogging up your mind with comparison. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. Where did you get withheld the love and acceptance from others by not being able to give? When you can't give other people love and appreciation for their win, it indicates that you have not been given that in some place.
Yeah.
Because if you felt love and acceptance for yourself, you'd be happy to share it with other people.
Yeah.
And so the question becomes, where did the love and acceptance get withheld?
Probably high school. Yeah. Yeah, I would say. Like, I moved around a lot as a kid, so I was always the new kid. So I never fit in, and I went to like 3 middle schools, 2 high schools, and yeah, always had to make new friends. And I became like the internet kid, you know, just kind of didn't really have like a really natural or normal high school experience. And that probably shapes most things. I would say that was it. Yeah.
How would it feel to be loved and accepted?
I think it's not necessarily something that I regret, or because I think it did shape me into someone that I am today, because
you can't change the past.
Right.
The past is the past.
Having to go through that really challenging high school and growing up experience, and in the grand scheme, it wasn't that bad, but it forced me to, or I guess I went and decided to, you know, leave my hometown, and I moved to California, didn't know anybody. If I didn't have that experience where I didn't enjoy my high school, or I didn't move around so much, I would have maybe just went to the local college or the state college and then hung out with the same people. And I wouldn't be here today and I wouldn't be as driven or motivated without that. And maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's just my story. I think that has always pushed me to work harder and to try new things. Just moving around so many places just made me like, and that's why I became a digital nomad. Like I was okay with, or maybe I was okay with going and traveling Europe by myself. If I hadn't had those experiences where I didn't fit in, then maybe I would have never been comfortable not fitting in. I don't know if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It does make sense. When you see and understand that kids are going to be going through what you're going through right now, some of them might be listening to this podcast as an escape of their current reality, what would you tell those kids who are being bullied or who are being isolated in their own peer group?
I don't know. I think it's a lot different nowadays with social media. That might be something that's a little harder. I don't know. I think there's so much. One escape that I had was the internet. And I, at like 15 years old, when I was, you know, going through all of that, I went and started a business online doing like, I think we talked about this before, but I was doing like, you know, just like affiliate marketing stuff and like just zoned in working on cool businesses till like 2 or 3 in the morning, trying to figure out how to make money online. I was like on the early days of even before Reddit, like Dig, like I was like an internet kid. So I like knew all about these little different internet things, internet memes, way before internet was really a thing. So I think that I don't like to say like that there's a good escape, but the internet can be what for me was an escape. And like I wouldn't be as like enterprising or I guess dynamic if I didn't like grow up on the internet. Like I had like internet friends and all, and I think that stuff is cool. And nowadays, maybe it's easier or maybe it's harder. I'm not sure. But that was like the escape for me. So there is like, I know that a lot of kids deal with like bullying and that sort of thing in their school or whatever. But there's like so much more, online or there are certain escapes that you can, that I had personally.
And when you look back at that time of being bullied, of not feeling love for yourself, what's the advice you wish you got?
Just to be able to, probably just like talk about it with someone. Yeah. Because I internalize everything, even to this day.
Did you talk about it with anyone?
No. I mean, I think my parents knew and stuff like that, but I would just internalize it. Yeah. Like I remember this is such an not embarrassing story, but like I was like the new kid and then some kid wanted to like fight me or something like that. And it was kind of like happening online. He wanted to have a big fight. And then there was like starting this this is just like one of the boys wanted to have a fight. And then of course I was like a little scrawny kid. So there was no way I was going to go to the fight, but then everyone was getting involved in it and wanted to meet after school at like 4 o'clock or something like that. And I just like pretended to be homesick that day because I didn't want to deal with it. And then he called my house phone and left a message and basically said like, I don't want to say it on this podcast because it would be like, it's like homophobic. But he said something like really homophobic and pretended to be a kid that was like kind of more effeminate kid. He pretended to be a kid and say that, yeah, you can guess what it was. But then my mom heard the message. So I think she kind of knew and that kind of stuff. But I just like pretended like it didn't happen.
How old were you?
I was the brand new kid in school, and I was like 11. Yeah.
And how old are you now?
32.
So is it possible that for 21 years, you've been holding on to this lack of love and acceptance for yourself because you are still that 11-year-old kid who doesn't feel the full appreciation for themselves and feels like they could be picked on at any moment? Is that possible?
Yeah, it is. I think I've gotten over it mostly. But yeah, I think those things. I mean, my mom's a therapist, so I talk to her a lot about this stuff. And
but you're
a fucking therapist, man. This is like a therapy session.
But you didn't talk to her about it, right? Like
no.
So she's a therapist, but you didn't bring it to her.
She wasn't a therapist at the time, but no, it's tough. If your mom's a therapist, you typically don't want to like have therapy with your mom. You want to have a therapy with a therapist because your mom's gonna be biased.
Mm-hmm.
But she's still I think she knew and she tried to help. But yeah, I think you take that stuff away with you. Yeah, that's your childhood, your past.
I'm here to tell you that you can have the love and acceptance for yourself in this moment. And I think becoming at peace with that is the most important mission any of us will ever go on in this lifetime. And I often bring on, people who have had amazing successes in media and entrepreneurship on this podcast, but it's really like the own internal game that we're all playing. And I think is the most important. I found it to be the most important for my life.
Yeah.
And I assume that it is for other people as well. What's your internal dialogue like today?
I like what you told me last time. I think last time we talked where you write down like a mantra like 100 times a day. What was it?
I love myself.
Yeah.
This was one of the formative mantras in my life, thanks to Kamal Ravikant. He actually doesn't suggest this practice particularly, but I write down every day, I love myself. I love myself. So that is and I would take actions as well that would show myself that I actually did love myself. Like I would go to the gym, I would meditate, but it was this mantra that was so helpful to me in the beginning of my journey.
Yeah. What was the question again?
What is your internal dialogue like today?
What do you mean by that?
What's the voice in your head? And what's your relationship with?
Okay, yeah, this is going to get deep.
That's a great clip for the trailer of this podcast.
I think maybe a lot of people can relate to this as entrepreneurs starting something is like we were just talking about this, but like right now, unfortunately, it's a little bit of a scarcity mindset, you know? Like, I feel like I think when you're starting, it's like, this isn't going to last forever. I've always felt that way about business, and I try not to feel that way, but I think a lot of people feel that way. Is like, I have to capitalize on this now, and I not zoom out enough on everything will be fine, everything will be good. But it's almost like this could fall apart tomorrow. I think that's a very common feeling that entrepreneurs have, is like, if this all falls apart tomorrow, then like everything could go wrong and fall apart. That's not always my mantra, but I think like it's a balance of like, it's the highs and lows, right? You like, everything is amazing, and then everything could fall apart tomorrow. That's like, and when I was working like a regular job before starting my own business, it was like every day was normal. It's like just very middle. And then when you start a business, it's everything is great or everything is horrible. So depends on the day.
When you say it's all going to end, it's all done, this could be done at any moment, who would you be without that belief?
You. That's hilarious. No, I love your mindset and your like positivity or optimism.
I appreciate that, man.
And I that's why I follow you. That's why I'm friends with you.
Thank you, man.
Get some of that energy.
No, but it's true. Like, so often the belief holding us back is the belief that we're not good enough, or the belief that the things that we are building today, but you're laying bricks. Like each interview that you've done is a brick.
Yeah.
What happens to bricks? What happens to yes, earthquakes can happen and buildings can fall.
Yeah.
But living with the belief that that is going to happen, or that's your reality, is simply an existence that hurts. And when you are truthful, you don't say it's going to be amazing or this building will last forever. You say, I don't know. I don't know if this building will last forever. Not it's going to fall down, but I don't know. I don't know the future. So there is a power in I don't know, because it releases you from trying to predict what will or will not happen. And it allows you to be present.
So you say, I don't know.
I don't know. How will this podcast go? I don't know.
Yeah.
Before. And that gives me presence, because I'm not trying to predict the reality that I can't possibly predict. Yeah. I have no idea what energy you're going to come in with. I have no idea how the thing that you did right before this podcast, I don't know. And if it happened already, it happened already.
Yeah.
Like that's the past. The first half of this podcast already happened. And so for me, that allows me to be present. You go from the place of like, I don't know what the future will hold. Try that on. Like, how does that sound?
I like that. Yeah. Because I try to have control over everything. Yeah.
Control is an illusion.
Yeah.
Can't have control over the future.
Yeah.
Like, you can try to shape it in some way.
Where did you learn that?
A lot of time meditating.
Yeah.
A lot of reading. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where I learned it. Recently, I've been obsessed with this guy, Peter Crone. Have you heard of him?
Mm-mm. Who's that?
Most brilliant mindset guy I've ever discovered. I've researched 360 people for this podcast, and he is the one I'm most obsessed with, because his mind is different, and some of these ideas come from him.
What's his main thing?
So he's called the Mind Architect, and he's the Diamondbacks mental coach.
Nice.
And just a beast. So I'll send you some of his stuff after this podcast.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Talk to me about writing and the foundation of that. Why has writing been so important for you?
When we go back to high school again. It's the internet, man. I think just writing on forums for so long, or like as a kid, I was that probably got me a little better than the usual kid or whatever. And then I remember in freshman year, we had like an essay writing contest, and you had to write an essay in 1 hour. And I wrote it, and I was like, I had the worst GPA in school. I was not a good student or anything like that. And I won the contest. And I don't know, I think that maybe they had me win because they wanted to give me some like ego boost or something like that. But that gave me like a sign or like a signal that I was like, I could be good at something. I could be good at writing. And I wasn't really good at anything else. And I wasn't that good at it, but I think that gave me some sort of confidence or like an identity that I was like good at something. And I still, I think that that's kind of where it started. I don't think that I'm a good writer or anything like that, but it's definitely, looking back on some of the success that I've had, that writing is probably one of the more main themes, or at least it's something that I can just pull out of my back pocket whenever I need it. And it's just an amazing tool. Yeah.
What makes for a great writer?
Time, writing over and over and over again. Like when I write something, Marco knows when we write scripts, we write it over and over and over and over, probably 20 times.
Wow. And
we recite it and recite it and recite it. So even if I'm writing a tweet or let's say a short post or something like that, I could probably spend 2 hours on it. I will spend 2 hours on it, even if it's just constantly going over and over and over. And that's the only way to be, that's the only thing that works for me in terms of how to write well. I think that's what makes any good writer is like, if you look at like, I always just think of Paul Graham as like a good writer. That just always comes to mind.
Universally loved, amazing writer.
Yeah. You know, he's spending days, weeks, months writing those blogs or essays or whatever. And I think that's what most people get wrong about writing is like, oh, I'm not good. I'm not as good as this person, but it's actually, no, you just didn't put it in enough time. You didn't rewrite it enough. That's really it, I think.
What about your daily blog that you kept for a year and a half? That's how I discovered you for episode 38 through Twitter, through the daily blog. I'd have to imagine you became a way different writer at the end of that streak than you did in the beginning.
Yeah. I think that helped me be able to write more, maybe spontaneously, or just be able to write about anything, just like to be able to sit down and just write something. You just get good at like coming up with ideas or just splashing words on the page. You can just kind of like pull a rabbit out of a hat in terms of like some thought you have or something like that. I think that helps. Creativity, maybe that's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I wrote every day on a blog, published every day on a blog for a year and a half, as you know, and that was fun.
Why?
I don't remember why. I think I just like to set challenges for myself. And like set goals, set manifestations of something that I want to do. And then I like to prove to myself, or at least feel like I'm proving to others that I'm doing it, that I'm following through. I think sometimes I take it to an extreme where I just like, I take it too far or do something for too long that is like, not necessarily not working, but like not working for me.
Like what? Like tennis?
No, I love that. Oh God, I had an example of that, but I can't think of an example right now but sometimes it's like, oh, sometimes you just gotta just throw it away and move on. Like if you do something, like if you feel overcommitted to something, like sometimes it's like a belief. Like if you feel like you have a belief and sometimes you hold on to that belief because you feel like someone's going to like, this is going back to the same thing, but someone's going to be like, oh, you did. Okay. This is a good example. I quit drinking alcohol and now it's part of my identity that I don't drink alcohol. And if I stop, I didn't have an alcohol problem or anything like that. But if I had a beer or something like that, then it would like ruin my streak, or people would, be like, oh, well, he's not doing that anymore, or, his willpower broke or whatever, something like that. That would be a good example of that, which is stupid.
Yes. That's what I was going to say in kinder words. No one gives a fuck.
Tell me what you think about that.
No one cares. Like, everyone's in their own world. And you do amazing things and people will congratulate you, and you do things that you stop a streak or you stop going to the gym, and it's like no one's judging you.
Yeah. Yep.
Eyes on your own paper.
Yep.
Right? Like, everyone's too busy on their own world, especially the people that you actually care about.
Yeah.
And the people who love you and appreciate you just want you to be the best you can be. And if you fall down, which you inevitably will, they'll pick you back up.
Yeah.
Those are the people that you want on your team anyway. And if they're not like that, then you don't want them on your team.
And it's so funny. I even have dreams that I like got drunk, and
this is what would happen to me on 75 Hard.
Tell me more.
Well, I would have dreams that I would drink alcohol and I'd be like, fuck, I messed up.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had the same thing.
Yeah.
I bet it's common for any sort of like challenge or whatever.
But you're doing it indefinitely.
Yeah. It's dumb.
Are you not drinking now more so because you've created the identity for yourself as a not drinker?
No. I still like, I don't want to drink.
Yeah.
And if I'm, it's like, in the dream state is like, oh, I wanted to drink. But then when I'm just like, or a good example is like, I'm going to my buddy's bachelor party and I'm not going to drink. Okay. How's that going to be? And then I get there and I'm not drinking. Like, I don't want to drink. And it's fine. And it's all fun. It's kind of like that. So like the idea of it sometimes is scary, but or like going to a wedding sober, that sort of thing. But then when you get there, it's like, oh, I'm not going to drink. And that's just what I do. I don't drink. That's fine.
Yeah. The forecast, I see the common pattern in your life is the forecasting of the future and playing other people's opinions and perspectives on the future that hasn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
Does that resonate?
Yeah.
How do you get better at that skill of not doing it?
I need to go to therapy.
Just come on the Danny Miranda podcast once a week. I'll send you the invoice. You already paid me for the first session.
Yeah. What do you think
about
forecasting?
I don't know. That's what I think. That's what I think the best thing to do about forecasting is. I don't know. Give your best effort in the moment. Be present. Give your best.
Yeah.
And let the chips fall where they may. Because who the hell knows? We're on a floating rock in space, Pat. Are you kidding me? Like, how did we get here? Why are we here?
It's true. Yeah. I always have those moments where like, oh, life is short and none of this matters.
And what are you doing playing other people's perspectives and opinions in your head? Like, this is your head.
Yeah.
And so I think meditation's really helped me with that. Be more present, not care about what other people are thinking about my games and the things I'm doing and the things I'm saying and how I'm showing up in the world, and just laughing at it all. Like, it's a funny thing.
Yeah.
Talk to me about energy levels. You said that, you're on a high right now, understandably, likely due to the YouTube channel blowing up. But you said in 2021 and 2022, you were on a low.
Yeah.
And now you're on the high, and talk to me about it.
Yeah. A couple of things. I think it's normal for people to have, or at least entrepreneurs to like have like low energy periods and high energy periods. I'll talk to a lot of people that, just not to quit or anything like that when you go through those down periods, just to let it be like normal and just kind of baseline.
What helps you not quit?
I don't really know what I would do if I quit. Right? Where would I go? I would just sit there. So I just kind of keep going. But, I think like it can be good and bad, but like I'll just go through periods and I can kind of recognize it myself where it's like, oh, I'm just like not having as much energy as I used to. And that's fine. I don't need to force getting like, for example, like lately I've been getting up at like 6 a.m, which is pretty early for me. But like 3 or 4 months ago, I was getting up at like 9 a.m. and I felt, sometimes felt guilty about that. But then I realized that, I was just going through a little bit of a lower energy period of my year or my few years. And that's okay. And then, something happened where like the YouTube channel kind of started blowing up. So it felt like, a little bit of that scarcity mindset, but like, let's take advantage of this moment when I have this energy, and then the energy's there. And then I'm getting up early again, and, like it's a little bit more exciting. But then I know it'll go back down again where, it goes maybe more into a lull, or things get more normal, or maybe it switches up somehow. I think that I'm getting better at like recognizing that and being okay with when I'm working a lot or working less, or more of a lull period. Not if that answers your question.
Why do you feel guilty about waking up at 9 a.m.?
I think once you start, just feel like you have maybe a little less time in the day to...
Whose voice is it?
Me. Okay, so like, you have employees now, and you need to get a few things done, and if you don't get up early, then you're not going to get that deep work time in as much. There's a little bit more, emails you're gonna have to do. Like waking up early and getting more done is like definitely more productive for me. So that's why I would feel guilty about it.
Makes sense. And then the energy levels, you're feeling like it's gonna go down at some point. Why do you feel like it's gonna go down at some point? What if this is just your new reality, and you felt full of love and energy for the world forever? Would that be possible?
I don't know. I think like if something is like new for me, if something is new and novel, those feelings are it's excitement, but I know that it can't last forever because it just becomes more of your norm, right? So maybe you can tell me what you're thinking on this, but like, for example, it's like the tinkerer thing that I was saying earlier, like trying new things. It's really fun and exciting at first when it's new, but then it becomes your normal. And then it's like, you kind of think about like, oh, how I can just make that a part of my life, or like automate it or systemize it or whatever. And then that, I kind of can go and work on new things, but it's not always having those new things. Sometimes it's just more in the normal state. Do you feel like that about, I don't know, maybe you've had some amazing guests on, or you had like a clip blow up, or you had like the Andy Frisella, that's a good example. You had this amazing experience, but that's not going to be every day, right?
Yeah. The Andy Frisella episode was my favorite moment of life.
Sure.
But it's like, that made me so excited because it opened up new possibilities for me to keep doing the thing that I love doing.
Yep.
So it's like, it was a high, sure, but the coming down from the high was not going down all that much.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's how I feel too.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That means you found something that you actually enjoy doing for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
And that is something that most people go their whole lives without uncovering.
But you don't find yourself seeking those highs?
No, I don't. Because this is the high for me. Like talking to you right now is the high. I get just as much enjoyment from talking to you right now as I do talking to Andy Frisella.
Yeah.
I don't view people, even if they've had amazing impact on my life, as higher in terms of joy and connection. It's human being.
Yeah. I don't necessarily mean it in terms of guests and how you view people, but like more so the moment. Like the moment, like you don't chase like that really, like sometimes I'll chase that like really exciting moment where it's like I just unlock something new, and that feeling of unlocking something and seeing the world bigger or whatever is like, you don't chase that at all?
No, I don't chase that, but when it comes, I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's better.
It's a special place to operate from because you're more present, because you're not putting things on pedestals, and it's like an understanding and a deep knowing that where you are right now is where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
It'll come. It'll all come. Whatever you want to come will manifest and will be reality. But you need to be present to witness them and not think, okay, I just got this amazing person on my YouTube channel. Now, like, who's the next amazing person? And like, if I don't get them, then my life is over. And like,
we were just talking about that. Like,
It's a shitty way to live.
Yeah.
It's bad for your
Not
mind.
trying to outdo yourself every time.
Yeah.
I think you do a good job of that. Like, you're not trying to you're not chasing the views or chasing the moment or whatever.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think that meditation really played a big role in getting me to that place. Have you played around with that at all?
A little bit. Yeah. On your suggestion, I did like the 60-minute meditation morning kind of thing.
Yeah.
I find meditation hard because time.
Yeah.
I know that's such a cliche excuse,
No.
but it's not necessarily time, but the feedback loop or the reward isn't always there. If I like to play tennis, and the reward's always there because you get that dopamine of hitting the ball exactly how you want it. It's the habit, you want that, you chase that. But with meditation, it's the opposite. It's like going for a run. Doesn't feel good.
Yeah. It's true. Sure. So some people get it from meditation. Some people get it from journaling. Some people get it from going on a walk. Some people get it from tennis.
Yeah.
Right? Is really figuring out how you can go inward and find peace and presence.
Yeah.
And that's life, man.
Yeah.
That to me is everything.
So maybe I should play more tennis. You meditate in the morning, right?
And at night, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I sleep so well. It's crazy.
I should do that.
Yeah, try it at night. And it doesn't have to be for 60 minutes. You could do it for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That works too. What are you most proud of?
Most proud of? In myself? Or?
There's no one else here. I'm talking to. Marco's in the room. But
I would, anything I say I would feel would be I don't know, self-indulgent or.
So this has also come up a couple of times where you will get some achievement or some award, but you'll try to downplay it in some way, where you won the writing contest, but you feel like, oh, they just gave it to me.
Right.
You need to own, you're an incredible guy. You've done amazing things. You've done things that most people will never do, and you've achieved more for yourself than you thought capable 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so you need to give yourself credit, because it's like you're not giving yourself the love and acceptance for your own accomplishments.
Yeah. Okay. I have an answer then.
Good.
I guess I'm most proud of the moment before I started my company, where it was where a lot of people will quit. And I can just remember this very specific moment where I was just so fed up with my job. I had a real career for 5 years, and I was never happy with that. And I remember I'd always come home after work and be like, when I get home, I'm going to get on the internet and learn, how to code or something like that. And I never did it. I would always go home and then hang out with friends, and then it would never happen. Years of that. But there are a couple moments. I think the one I will say the most interesting is when I was in my career, and I was getting off work every day and saying I'm going to go work on my business. I'm going to go work on my business. And then I never would. And then that was years. And then finally I made the choice to do it. And I would go to I would get off work, I would walk to the coffee shop, and I would go there for 3 hours and just try to start. And it was the hardest, most grueling thing ever. It was, people say starting a business is easy or whatever. That was the hardest part for me. Just sitting down and focusing on it and doing it and making the active decision not to go home and watch TV or hang out with friends or go out or whatever, and just sit there and do it. And it was so hard to do. I made so many excuses and avoided it so many times. But that mental change, I guess, that change of identity in me of that I could do this or that whatever, that was when I started my business and everything changed. That was when I was able to quit my job and do something that I love doing and that sort of thing. So that was like, I think I would be proud of that moment because I could have quit easily a lot. And something in me just like, yeah, I did that enough times, and then it just started to feel like that started to become a normal thing, a normal routine. It's like going to the gym or something like that. And then that was like the biggest probably change of my life.
It makes a lot of sense that the answer you would give for what you're most proud of is starting.
Yeah.
Since Starter Story
Yeah.
is the name of your company. But what got you over the hump?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to remember what got me over the hump, but I think I was just fed up with building someone else's dream. And of course, this is like the example I was telling you earlier, where I just do something for too long and it becomes part of my identity or whatever. And it had been 5 years of working in the corporate world, building for someone else. I knew I didn't like it from the beginning, but it took me 5 years of doing it. And I think that was like, I was finally just so fed up with it. And I had jumped around to multiple careers. I started in accounting, went to finance, and then I went to software engineering because I thought a new career would make me happier, right? By the third career, I was like, none of this is ever going to make me happy. And that was like the moment where I was fed up. And that was probably I was like, I can't go to another career. Same thing is going to happen. Let's try this entrepreneurship thing.
Wow. What do you think what was the advice you wish you got, or the thing you wish you did in the beginning of that journey? Because there are people who are in that right now listening to this podcast. They're right now saying to themselves, I'm going from career to career. Listen to this podcast about two guys who talk about entrepreneurship sometimes, and it's kind of like therapy, but like, I don't know why I'm listening to this, and I know I should be doing something else.
Yeah.
But I'm not. What advice do you have for that person?
Yeah. I think, yeah, just for me, I am a very insular, introverted person. And if I can just sit down and put my mind to something, and just tune out the noise, I can learn or figure something out. And that's what going to the coffee shop for 3 hours after work with no one around, nobody knew I was doing it, and just focus on just trying to do that one thing without reading guides and listening to other people or like taking courses or whatever. Just sit down and do it. And it's like the hardest thing. It's like meditating, right?
Just thinking that.
Yeah. Because you just have to just like sit there and not look at Twitter and just tune it all out and just put in like, those are like, that's what I do normally now every day. But those are like that's like that's like running your first mile, your first 5K, or I don't know if you're a runner or if you're that's like going to the gym and lifting weights for the first time. It's really hard and you don't know what you're doing, but you have to do it. That would be my advice.
You force yourself to do the work.
Yeah.
And you just sit down and force yourself to do the work.
Yeah.
For me, what was big was accountability.
Yes.
There were people in my life that I didn't want to let down. And so because I didn't want to let them down, because I viewed them in a light that was like, this person is above me or has achieved more, so I don't want to let them down because I look up to them. I can't let them down, so I'll do the thing.
Yeah.
That was for weightlifting. That was for meditation. I had mentors in my life that I was accountable to daily.
Yeah.
And that was so big.
That's huge.
Did you have anyone like that?
No, but that's just how I am, is like more like I want to do it for me, and I want to like, if I make a decision to do something, I won't tell anyone that I'm going to do it. Or at least I'll get like far along enough in the process and to be like, okay, now I'll talk about it a little bit. So that's just me personally, but I think the accountability stuff works really well. And I do that sort of stuff too. And that can work. A lot of the people that I see through Starter Story and entrepreneurs and successful people, the accountability stuff works really well. Like 12 startups in 12 months, 10 startups in 10 weeks, build a startup in 24 hours, that sort of stuff, where you like publicly say, this is what I'm going to do. And then you'll do it.
Yeah. I think, have Starter Story ever considered playing around with anything like that? Like as a competition or as a way to bring people together who are in that phase of thinking about starting a business?
Yeah. Yep. We did like a live cohort course one time. That was really cool. And then now in our community, we're doing like challenges. So like post on Twitter for set goals in the beginning of the month, or like Twitter challenges where you post on Twitter every day and you're like doing it alongside other people. I think it's huge.
This would be a good place to ask my final question about a challenge to leave the audience with, because a challenge points to the place in your heart you think people should take this conversation and actually do something with the things that we've talked about.
Damn, I was supposed to research. I knew you were going to ask that question, and then I lost track. I wanted to have a good answer.
No, whatever it is a good answer, because you're present and we had the conversation and it unfolded exactly as it was supposed to.
Yeah. Good challenge for anyone or for someone who wants to do something specifically.
Whatever is calling to your heart and mind right now. It could be to an entrepreneur. It could be to a kid who was bullied when he was 11. It could be to a content creator. It could be to whoever you want.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we were talking about earlier about the feeling that everything is going to fall apart. I was just talking to someone who it's like making pretty good money, and like they're scared to quit their job. And I think there's one of those moments where when I quit my job, the business was doing, it was already started and it was doing like decently well, making a few $1,000s a month. And I had like $12,000 in the bank, and I quit my job. And looking back on that, that was like I don't want to say people quit their jobs, but sometimes like you wait too long to do what you truly want to do. It doesn't necessarily mean quitting your job or whatever, but if you've made some progress going all in or doing things earlier than what feels comfortable, that might be, I don't know, trying something that you want. YouTube's a good example. Why did I wait 5 years to get on it? Because it felt uncomfortable. If I had done that earlier, that could have been, I don't want to say I want to do it earlier, but if there's something that's you're thinking about, can you do it earlier? That's the challenge, I would say. Something feels like I love this Peter Thiel quote, which is, how can you take your 10-year plan and do it in 6 months? To think like that would be the challenge. It's like a lot of people I'll talk to will be like, hey, I want to start a business, but I want to get my savings and I'm going to do it in 10 years when I'm older. It's like, how can you just do that now? That would be my challenge.
Do you notice the pattern in your own life? The business, you stayed in the job for 5 years and you didn't do the YouTube channel or put yourself on video for 5 years. The question for me becomes, what is the thing that you're going to want to be doing and is bubbling right now in your head for 5 years? That could be for 5 years.
Yeah.
If it could easily not be. It could be, you could start it today. What is the thing that scares you is really the question right now.
Starting family. That'll be it.
Pat Walls, I think we got...
Be popping babies out.
I think we got a lot to discuss on our next episode. A year from now, I'm gonna be making sure you at least took some strides to the thing that scares you.
Yeah,
dude, you're such a good dude. You're a great creator. You're an incredible writer. You're an incredible video creator, as evidenced by the amount of people who watch your channel. Thank you so much for being a friend to me. Thank you so much for being somebody who has supported the journey early on, but also somebody who has just gives their heart and puts themselves out there on the internet. You're a special dude. You're really amazing. And I want you to live and embody and appreciate yourself as much as I appreciate and love you. So thank you so much for being on the show 3 times. 3-time guest.
I have one thing to say though.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to thank you because you are the most, it's crazy to see. I wanted to say this earlier, but I forgot, is how well connected you are. When we went to New York and we were in the room with Hunter Weiss and Zach and those guys, we realized we were talking about you, and they were basically saying like, we're all in this room because of Danny. And I just assumed at the point like, oh, maybe you knew those guys growing up or something like that. But I realized that they're all in that room because of your podcast. And your podcast is like, you're creating this network of people that are all similarly or like-minded or maybe not like-minded. And this network that you're building is an empire in 10 years. It's going to be absolutely huge. You are building the relationships. Every podcast you have, every person you talk to, every person you help, including Marco, including me, is like connecting everyone together, and it's amazing. And I think that's like your not like your number one skill, but that's like your superpower. And you're gonna take that to like you say, Madison Square Garden.
Thank you, man. I appreciate the kind words, and it all stems from the love of human beings. And the love of human beings stems from the love for myself. I wasn't connected to anyone 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I didn't start with connections or family, anything. This was all internal. I started to love myself. I felt the love and appreciation for myself, and then I wanted to give that to other people. And connections are the result of that.
Yep.
Because I love people, man. And I just want you to feel the love that I have for myself to you, and for you to have for yourself as well. So thank you for saying that. Thank you for being on the show. We'll send people to Starter Story, the YouTube channel, starterstory.com as well, and your Instagram, the Pat Walls, or Twitter. Twitter. Correct me where I'm wrong.
Twitter is the Pat Walls. Starter Story. Just look it up on Google.
Cool.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Awesome. We'll have the links down below. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
You're an absolute legend.
You're a great therapist.
Thank you.